The art of archaeology is a truly fascinating one. The study of ancient civilizations and cultures that came before us is one to respect, for it can reveal so much about us as a species. Much of our history is shrouded in mystery, so it's only natural that we seek to expose the secrets of our ancestors, to find out everything we can about them, what they believed in, their cultures, techniques, and structures. They say the past is a different country. They do things differently there. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at wondrous archaeological discoveries. Shiger idol older than experts thought. The Shiger idol, considered by historians and archaeologists as the world's oldest wooden sculpture, is shaped in the form of a human with an eerie-looking face. It is currently on display at the Sverdlovsk Regional Museum of Local Law in Russia. Researchers have now determined that it may date back even further than they originally estimated. The idol was discovered in 1890 in the Ural Mountains of Russia. It is named after the Shiger peat bog in which it was found. In 2018, scientists believed that it had been carved roughly 11,500 years ago. However, those same researchers recently concluded that it had been created 12,100 years prior, a full 600 years earlier than the initial estimate. To understand how old that is, consider when other ancient relics were constructed. Stonehenge dates to around 5,000 years ago, while the Great Pyramids of Giza were over 4,500 years ago. At 12,000 years old, this wooden idol would have existed during the Quaternary extinction, which occurred around 10,000 years ago, and saw the disappearance of Ice Age megafauna and large woolly mammals. This is not some tiny wooden object either. It stands at about 5.3 meters tall and features human faces and geometric patterns. According to researchers at the State Agency of Heritage Service in Germany, this new estimated age makes it the world's earliest wooden monumental sculpture. The research team spent some time reanalyzing the average radiocarbon dates that they had published in 2018. At that time, the age range was from 12,500 to 8,600 years ago, giving them an average of 11,500 years old. However, wax and wood pigment were used on the idol to maintain its condition and repair any damage. They found that wax reconstruction began nearly 120 years ago, and the stain in the 1990s. The scientists believe that these treatments would have influenced the results to appear younger, as radiocarbon dating calculates the ratio of decaying radioactive carbon isotopes. Instead, the researchers decided to sample the wood's innermost parts from the reconstructed surface, since the treatments did not alter them. With that, they concluded the wood dated to 12,250 years ago. However, they are also aware that the wood came from the heart of a tree, which would have died long before it was cut down and used for construction. Although the organic wood material died 12,250 years ago, they estimate that it was felled roughly 150 years later. Historians also analysed the idol's design, linking it to other artefacts with geometric motifs that have been discovered to date about 12,100 years ago as well. We commonly see simple lines and zigzags as decoration during the late Paleolithic and early Mesolithic eras. The sculpture gives us another small insight into what our early ancestors were doing and where they were migrating to. Ancient mummy found entombed in strange cocoon never before seen by archaeologists. A 3,400-year-old mud mummy was recently discovered, the body wrapped in a hardened cocoon of mud resembling a hard shell that baffled the scientists who conducted a scan of the mummy. This deceased body suggests an entirely different way of burial performed by the ancient Egyptians, a precursor to the typical mummification process to which we are all so accustomed. Its finding might alter the way we view the way the ancient Egyptians buried their dead. A pressing theory regarding the mud cocoon is that it was used to stabilize the mummy to protect the body from any harm or damage that would handicap it in the afterlife. An alternative suggestion made by scientists was that it was a practice used for ancient aristocrats and the upper classes who would be mummified in resin-based concoctions from 1294 BCE to about 945 BCE, and that this was one of the earlier methods of such intricate burials. However, that leaves the question of why mud was used on this person and not resin, as it ought to have been. A study conducted by Karen Sawada, who is a researcher in the Department of History and Archaeology at Macquarie University in Australia, concluded that mud would have been a significantly cheaper material and far more common and easy to obtain. The mummy itself was dated back to 1207 BCE. However, it was shown to have been damaged post-mortem, the body even having been placed into the wrong tomb. The body, found to be female, was put into a coffin with the inscription of Maruta or Marua, which would have been their name, though researchers claim the body is not that of Maruta but another unidentified female. This is due to the fact that the mud mummy suffered the same fate as many other mummies of the 19th century. The body was shoved into a coffin that belongs to another person in order for the dealers who sold artifacts and mummies to museums and personal collectors to sell a complete burial set. The body found inside was 200 years older than the coffin, which was identified as being only made in 1000 BCE. Though the body is not Marua's, it's a female who perished in her young adulthood, somewhere between the ages of 20 and 30, most likely at the age of 26. After her passing, she seemed to have been mummified with the usage of the typical textiles used in ancient Egyptian burial rites. It's during this time that researchers assume that her left knee and leg became damaged by some accident or mistake, though it's probable that the damage was caused by early grave robbers. There is evidence to suggest someone attempted to fix the damage, several generations down the line, with a rewrapped padding and more application of the mud carapace. The person who attempted to repair the broken parts of the body made a muddy mess of it, with a mixture of mud, sand and straw built in between the layers of wrapping. The top of the mummy was coated with raw crimson ochre, with multiple layers of linen placed over the damp materials. Unfortunately, their efforts were fruitless as the mummy was damaged once again later down the line, though in a different spot. The neck and head were consequently injured because this injury cut through all the layers, including the muddy carapace and various linen layers. It is evident that this was recent damage, done likely within only the last few centuries. Notably, this is not the only Egyptian mummy which was repaired after death. The body of Pharaoh Seti I was rewrapped multiple times, as well as the body of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, so this was a semi-common practice, so it is assumed. Despite this, it was still not a popular practice opposed to the more usual ways of mummification, it seems, and the discovery of this body shows us that the burial process was significantly more nuanced than we believed, and that the ancient Egyptians had multiple and various ways of burial, all dependent on time period, area, and social status. Lost Renaissance masterpiece, discovered hanging above woman's hot plate, sells for $26.8 million. Sometimes things that are lost are hiding in the most unlikely of places, and occasionally they are even hiding in plain sight. This was the case with the recently discovered Renaissance artwork that had been considered lost to history. Philomene Wolff, a Parisian auctioneer, was tasked with evaluating the contents of a 90-year-old Frenchwoman's apartment in Pompeii, and was immediately drawn to a small, old-looking piece of artwork that was hanging over her hot plate in the kitchen. She immediately knew that the painting, which is about 10 inches by 8 inches, was something special, and suspected that it was a work of Italian primitivism, but had no idea exactly how valuable it would turn out to be. Wolff took the painting to Eric Turquin, an art historian with a track record of identifying difficult or long-lost works. After a thorough analysis, Turquin and a team of experts were all able to certify without a doubt that the artist of the painting was Seni de Peppo, also known as Cimabue, who is one of the highly celebrated fathers of early Renaissance painting dating back to the 13th century. Cimabue's paintings are incredibly rare, despite being considered a master of medieval painting, and historians only know of 11 of his paintings that currently exist, making this find even more impressive. Art historians were able to identify the painting as Christ Mocked, a part of a diptych of 8 scenes depicting the Passion and Crucifixion of Christ, likely as part of an altar scene that was separated and sold in the 18th century. Although prior to the discovery of Christ Mocked, there were only 2 known panels from the diptych in existence, called the Virgin and Child with 2 Angels, and the Flagellation of Christ. This new discovery was able to be identified as a member of the set by looking at the wood grain that was consistent throughout all 3 pieces. Jerome Moncuquil, a part of the team that made the exciting identification, said that they were able to positively determine that the painting was not a clever copy by comparing the wood grain between the sets. They are all made with the same technique on the same wood panel, so you can follow the grain of the wood through the different scenes, he reported. We also used infrared light to be sure the painting was done by the same hand. You can even see the corrections he made. Although there are only 11 known works by Cimabue in existence, historians speculate that the altarpiece that Christ Mocked was originally a part of contained 8 panels, meaning that there could be 5 additional panel pieces left for discovery. The owner of the apartment where the painting was unknowingly hidden away was elderly and moving out of her apartment, and she had no idea that she had an incredibly rare and valuable artwork in her kitchen. She told reporters that she had thought it was a Greek icon painting and that it had been in her family for as long as she could remember. Despite having been hung over a hot plate used to cook food for all those years, experts reported that the painting is still in excellent condition, apart from minor accumulation of dust. Considering the fact that the painting was made around the year 1280, it is truly impressive that it was able to remain in such good condition for all this time, and reminds us that you never know what might be lying in wait in some nondescript place for the right person to come along and uncover it. Archaeologists find intact ceremonial chariot near Pompeii. Of all ancient cities we know of, the elusive Pompeii is surely the most famous of all for the sorrowful sudden fate which befell it and its many citizens when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, coating the entire population in burning soot, encasing all its people, buildings, animals, and objects in everlasting existence. Officials at the site of Pompeii revealed their discovery of a never-before-found ceremonial chariot, a breathtaking discovery joining the surplus of wonderful findings made at and around the archaeological site. The chariot itself was made with elements of iron, but its decorations were made of bronze and mineralized wooden pieces and was found in the northern settlement of Pompeii, amongst the other ruins. It sat in the ruins of a stable where the dead remains of a trio of horses were found. It was parked, likely ready for its owner to take it home, something which never came to be, for the volcano immortalized the moment in time forever. Unlike the majority of other findings, this chariot was pristinely preserved, almost entirely in one piece. Having survived the initial eruption, the eventual caving in of the stables and centuries' worth of antiquity thieves was found sitting perfectly beside one of the ancient villas surrounding Mount Vesuvius, overlooking the stunning view of the Mediterranean Sea at the edge of the city. Last year, archaeologists found the skeletons of what they believed to have been a wealthy man and his male slave nearby the villa, seemingly trying to escape the devastation, unsuccessfully. Archaeologists believe that this particular chariot was used for festivals and parades, even potentially meant as a carriage for newlywed wives to carry them to their new husbands' homes. Chariots were used as casual transport to carry products and merchant goods as well as produce, but the intricate decorations suggest this was a chariot used only for special occasions and used only several times a year, instead of being an everyday chariot. As for the villa on which it was found, the Italian police discovered it back in 2017 after busting an illegally dug tunnel in the area. 2 people living nearby were put on trial for illegally digging about 80 meters worth of tunnels in the Pompeii area without a permit. Archaeologists find intact ceremonial chariot near Pompeii. Of all ancient cities we know of, the elusive Pompeii is surely the most famous of all for the sorrowful sudden fate which befell it and its many citizens when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, coating the entire population in burning soot, encasing all its people, buildings, animals, and objects in everlasting existence. Officials at the site of Pompeii revealed their discovery of a never-before-found ceremonial chariot, a breathtaking discovery joining the surplus of wonderful findings made at and around the archaeological site. The chariot itself was made with elements of iron, but its decorations were made of bronze and mineralized wooden pieces and was found in the northern settlement of Pompeii, amongst the other ruins. It sat in the ruins of a stable where the dead remains of a trio of horses were found. It was parked, likely ready for its owner to take it home, something which never came to be, for the volcano immortalized the moment in time forever. Unlike the majority of other findings, this chariot was pristinely preserved, almost entirely in one piece. Having survived the initial eruption, the eventual caving in of the stables and centuries' worth of antiquity thieves was found sitting perfectly beside one of the ancient villas surrounding Mount Vesuvius, overlooking the stunning view of the Mediterranean Sea at the edge of the city. Last year, archaeologists found the skeletons of what they believed to have been a wealthy man and his male slave nearby the villa, seemingly trying to escape the devastation, unsuccessfully. Archaeologists believe that this particular chariot was used for festivals and parades, even potentially meant as a carriage for newlywed wives to carry them to their new husbands' homes. Chariots were used as casual transport to carry products and merchant goods as well as produce, but the intricate decorations suggest this was a chariot used only for special occasions and used only several times a year, instead of being an everyday chariot. As for the villa on which it was found, the Italian police discovered it back in 2017 after busting an illegally dug tunnel in the area. 2 people living nearby were put on trial for illegally digging about 80 meters worth of tunnels in the Pompeii area without a permit. Archaeology allows us a colourful, bright insight into the past. It lets us see how our ancestors lived and what everyday life was like for them. Ancient civilizations which are now long gone, thought of life, death, wealth, and status which have since disappeared live on in our memories and with these constant discoveries.